Well, today we're talking about building a mountain, and the mountain that you see in there, that is the Mount Royal with the observatory and the Chameleon Hood Highway that is in Montreal. That goes to one end of the yard of the CMR. Now, this here is a cardboard web that you use piece of cardboard about 1 inch wide to do the web. Now, this is done, and the reason being I did that is it's a method that have been used for years and years and years. So I just kept a couple at that point to do just to show you. That is your base frame per se. I use some styrofoam at the end in here is just to give the mountain the heights and so on, and having a solid base for the road and the observatory. So we take our cardboard, I just fold it a little bit, and using a glue gun, you put the glue in. Now this one has got to go there at the end of the road. And just let it drop for now, it's okay. I do the same thing on the other side. Just to tighten up the end of the back of the mountain and the back of the road. So I cut it out. Put it back up, and I just put a little piece in here, and you're using some clamps. It will help you keep them in place. Now, in some of the place you cannot use clamps, but that is okay. This one is the same. You do the same on this side here. The glue, the clamp, and that's how you do the webbing on your mountain. Is nothing really hard to do. Just need a little bit of patience, and that's all. Now that is on a base of masonite, and the reason why it's on a base of masonite is because that part of the mountain has to be removable, because we got to access electrical and so on that we'll be putting in there, such as the lamp posts. Well, your step number 2, after you have done the basic framing with your cardboard web, is to use aluminum foil. Now, I've never seen so far a video about using aluminum foil. You take your foil and you just crinkle it like this, and the best way is you put your glue on it, and where you want your foil to be, so you drop the glue in. Then you put it on. As simple as that. Now you will find out I prepare some of them. Just a question of saving us some time. And you form it like this all around. Now I need a little piece in here, so you can cut it the way you want. Now it could be a little hot at time when you work with it. There you go. And the whole mountain is built that way. Now, so you can see right now exactly how we do it. It's nothing that is really complicated in here. There we go, we got the top of the mountain right now, pretty near done in here. And in this one, I just pulled a little bit the bottom here, and to be able to put the glue. And then the rest goes on the styrofoam that you got in here. This I insert on the bottom of my road, and then start to fold it and bring it to the back. The nice part with this is with the foil, it gives the strata of the mountain without having to use some mold. Majority of the time we have to mold rocks and apply it and then blend it with the rest of the mountain. With the aluminum paper, you don't even have to use mold. The reason being is that all your strata is already there. So here we do exactly the same thing. I overlap in here, if you notice. Now we'll need a little piece for there. So we do exactly like we did a little earlier. I'm folding the base. I'm putting some glue into it. I got some in here. And put some glue at the base. There we go. We got the back here, the mountain done, the top. So it's only the highway and the observatory that is there. Now that mountain has got a lot of grass and absolutely a lot of trees. See what I would be doing with the base. On the base of my masonite, I'm putting the sheet there underneath, like this. And what we'll do after they are in place is we'll put them to the web, which will complete technically your mountain as far as step number 2. So you do that to all your base. Well, now that we have done all the plug-in, let's do the rest here. So you bring your foil in place. So now we'll finish that off camera. Now we're ready for step number 3. And step number 3, and what goes over top of that, is Gypsona. Now Gypsona is, those one are 4 inches wide. That's exactly the same material that you use, that the hospital use if they make a cast if you broke your arm or your legs. Now they come in a roll of 4 inch of Gypsona. Some people use a Woodland Cynic. We don't. We found we didn't have the same amount of plaster on it as you have for the cast material. Now that cast material you can find in any orthopedic suppliers that you can have in your region. Here I have a tray of water. and we got our gypsona. Now the gypsona, we cut it in the length of maybe 10 inch to 12 inch. You put it in the water, and when you put it in, instead of just putting it in and smooth it up with your finger, I hope you got gloves, you bunch it up so that it feel inside of the crevice that your crunched up paper has produced. Now, you want to overlap and so on, and so that's how you start to do that. When you got a lot of big space, okay, let's do the top a little bit in here. You see, you're not working on just putting some plaster in there and smooth it out. You want it to get in as many of the form of the mountain that you have, like I'm working at right now. Now you can double, you can triple those. What I suggest, if you're making more than a single layer example, depending on what you want to do with the terrain. If you're on the top of a mountain where you don't have trees and that type of thing, one coat of that will do. When you do the second part here, you overlap, because as you crease it, right, like I'm doing right now, sometimes it doesn't want to bunch properly. So we have a couple little places that needed some more, so you cut a little piece and you just put it over top, and it usually does the trick. Now the top of the mountain there has been done. That's how you apply your plasters. You can already see some shape taking place as you're doing it. You cannot miss that. It's a very, very simple method. And you keep on doing that process till you got all your mountain covered. It's not the palm of your hands that create all the creases and so on. That's the tip of your fingers. Now remember one thing, in nature nothing is perfect. So if you want to have a perfect scenery, you have to master the imperfection. That's really what is the basic rule of sceneries. And everything is done on layers. Now I think you got a pretty good idea of the concept of how to work with your plasters. Now, if you're making double layers, right? Your first layers is on one direction. And you can tell right now how much of the shape of this mountain is taking place. Now on double layers, you take your other one and you just put it reverse of what you have done on the first. You will make more than one layers on area where you will plant a lot of trees and that type of thing. Put another one in here. Now this stuff does dry very quickly. So you can go from step 3 to step 4 in not much time really. You can the next step we will do after this is the last step prior you're doing the coloring of your mountain. Now we'll finish the rest off camera for now. Alright, now as you can see the mountain has been done with the cast. The step number 4 and the last one prior your painting of the mountain is you use regular compound, drywall compound that you buy at the Home Hardware or Rona or any hardware, and you dilute that a little bit like a paint, but a thick paint, and with the brush now you go all over your mountain with it. It's a lot more of a dabbing than anything else, because the plasters that you have applied will leave some open space here and there, which is totally normal. So now, by putting this compound in, what you're doing really is even reinforcing your hard shell. So when you go and plant your trees and doing the rest of your sceneries on that mountain, you will have something to work with. Now, you don't have to let the plaster totally dry to do it. It's kind of a wet on a wet in here in some ways, because it doesn't matter really. What you're trying to do is to cover the imperfections and so on, and create the hard shell. As you will see in the second part of this show, we show you the first 22 feet of the Rocky Mountains on the CMR upstairs. has exactly the same methods that we're using right now, that we did that. And we didn't have to use really any mold rock, for the simple reason that the aluminum foils, as you can see, does the trick for the strata. Now, it's not a job that is long to do. It's pretty fast doing those mountains in some ways. So you cover all the space. Now, when that is done, that you have done that part, the fourth step of doing the mountain, this you let dry somewhere around 24 hours or more before you start the final step of making mountain, which is the coloring of the mountain, which would be another video for another time. As you can see, it's very shiny. Do not be shy with this. You know, this material doesn't cost a fortune. Let's put it this way. Let's change that a little bit so it can be easier to work with. Now, to dilute the compounds, the drywall compounds, to make it like a paint like this, a thick paint, it's a little bit like a pancake mix. That's really what it is, right? So I use a little bit of very hot water, not much. The compound at that point dilute real good. And if you have put too much water, you just add on a little bit more of the compound and so on. Now, as you can see, the whole hard shell have been done. Now, if you see some imperfections that you want to correct at this stage, you do it, and you just dab a little bit more over top like I'm doing right now. And so in a nutshell right now, what you have your mountains have been done. All your hard shell has been done. And like I said, the next step now after this would be dry, would be ready for the texturing with paint, which would be mainly washes, over washes, using a method that is wet over wet, and it's done with an airbrush. It's not done with brushes. So after the painting would be done on that mountain, then the observatory and the roads and the sceneries, the grass and so on, that's when those details come into play. So I hope you enjoy our methods of doing mountains. It's a simple techniques. I hope you learn something out of it. I hope you use it. And now, this is it for this segment of how to make mountain at its train time.